Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagbobo. We've got quite a packed show for you today. Still reeling from a whole lot of drama in the Senate, and our conversation today on the show is going to focus on that. So our topic is Natasha versus Akpabio matters arising. Here our rundown of our talking points. We'll be x-raying Natasha's suspension, looking at alleged plot to remove Akpabio and the Senate's public image. Joining us on the show today is no stranger to the show, Barrister Osigwe Ahmed Momo, a legal practitioner and also a writer. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you so much, Brian.
I mean, it's quite an interesting story we've been following from the National Assembly. The Senate has suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months for violation of the Red Chamber rules. Her suspension followed her dispute with Senate President Godswill Akpabio, who she accused of sexual harassment, a claim that he has denied. Now, despite efforts by some senators to reduce the suspension period to 3 months, the Senate in a majority vote sustained the initial decision. However, the lawmakers ruled that the suspension could be lifted or reduced if and only if she tenders a written apology. It, however, agreed that her aides' salaries be paid, contrary to the recommendation of the committee. And following her suspension, the Kogi Central lawmaker was escorted out of the chambers by the sergeant at arms. But before she left, she declared this injustice will not be sustained. Let's have a look and listen to how it all played out yesterday.
2025, from all legislative activities forward. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. That the Senate do suspend Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months for a total violation of the Senate Standing Rules 2023, as amended, for bringing the presiding officer and the entire Nigerian Senate in general to public opprobrium. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. I'd put the question. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. How do you amend a prayer that is unanimous? Prayer 2.
Now, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was furious over the change of her seat. Her suspension was recommended by the committee, which found her guilty of a violation of Senate rules after its investigation. The question is, how long did that investigation even take? So let's take a look at the allegations once again. We've got the infographics. Recall that at the Senate, she filed in some allegations claiming that Akpabio made unwelcome advances toward her and later obstructed her legislative work. She alleged that the Senate president deliberately blocked her motions from being heard, particularly her motion to investigate corruption at the Ajaokuta Steel Company. She also alleged that the Senate president held her hand and made an unsettling remark. Now that you're a senator, I will create time for us to spend quality moments here and you will enjoy it. And on December 8, 2023, when she and her husband attended the Senate president's birthday celebration in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, she further claimed that after rejecting Akpabio's advances, she faced political obstruction, including deliberate delays in allowing her motions on the Senate floor. She alleged that Akpabio once told her, in quote, "Natasha, I am the chief presiding officer of the Senate. You can enjoy a whole lot if you take care of me and make me happy." Now, the controversy intensified last week when she protested the reassignment of Senate seat, which some people feel this is the key basis on which she has been suspended. And upon arriving at the chamber, she found her nameplate removed and her seat reassigned. And she viewed this move as an attempt to sideline her asserting that it was part of a broader pattern of harassment against women in positions of power who refused to comply. And of course, we've seen protests, pro-Akpabio protesters and also pro-Natasha protesters. And according to Pandef, the action by Natasha is a political move to remove Akpabio as the Senate president, and of course, as the Arewa Consultative Forum has confirmed. So these are just some of the issues, and there's been a lot of reactions. Barrister Sigwe, let me come to you. Thank you so much for being with us. So it's just been since last week, this has been going on. What's your reaction to the latest development of suspension?
Well, of course, I would think that it's unfortunate that the Senate would want to walk over the clear and unmistakable order of the court. And it kind of throws a bad light, kind of water down the judiciary. These are the people making laws. They also understand the laws better. All of them have legal aids. So there's no ignorance of the law in this regards. Many of them are lawyers. The Senate President is a distinguished lawyer himself. So I think it's quite unfortunate that knowing fully well that the court made, mind you, an interim order. That's why it's quite offensive. It would have been something else if it was interlocutory, but it's interim. And I think it was 72 hours to show cause. And I think it wasn't too much. It wasn't too much. It was a federal high court here in Abuja. They needed to just obey it and just allow it go. And I think that's quite difficult to digest. It's quite difficult to digest why, but I'm not looking at the merits of the matter right now. I'm not interested in the merit. I'm just saying the optics is quite damning and difficult to digest. I don't know why they want to walk over the clear and unmistaken order of the court.
Now, the Senate has a committee of ethics that was presided over some of the motions that she raised regarding, being maligned and sidelined, and then the issue of sexual harassment which she made on television. Now, a lot of people have come out to react that the Senate president should have stepped down. He can't preside on a matter that he's been accused of. What do you make of that?
Well, very, very well. I want to start by quoting on this regard, or in this regard rather. I want to start by quoting American podcaster Candice Owens. She says, men lie, women lie, or facts don't lie. So I want to stretch it a bit to say men lie, women lie, politicians lie, or facts don't lie. So let's stick with the fact. From what I'm getting from you, it would seem as if, because I'd probably missed the timeline being that, first of all, it was the reassignment of a seat that gave birth to the other allegations. But I'm hearing from your infographic just now that it was these allegations with the timeline. Where are we missing this? This to you. Is it not the fact that there was, first of all, the
seats brought about the whole drama that we're seeing now.
And that's important to rely on the facts. If that is the fact, that first of all, the issue, regardless of every other thing that's played out, the main cause, the front end of this particular issue is the fact that there was a reassignment of her seat, and she didn't like that. She thought that was somehow maligning her and reducing her person. And if that's the issue, and it gave birth to every other thing, then I think we should just stick with that issue first and look at it, generously. Was it targeted? Was she the only one? If she was the only one, why? Was it widespread? Why would you?
She was not the only one, because prior to this time, you recall there have been reports of lawmakers, decamping from their political parties to the APC. So I think that particular seat that she was reassigned from was Senator Ned's, that was reassigned to the seat that she was supposed to
thank you very
reassigned to. Then the outburst again is something that the Senate is also holding her responsible.
Thank you. So you have come straight to the point. That's why I'm saying let's stick with the facts. There's so much emotions and sensationalism around this matter, and I think it is very important to just rely with the facts, strict with the facts. The facts of this matter is that for some reason she was offended, clearly offended, that she had been given another seat, and that what led to the other allegations of sexual assault. That's what also led to the other allegations of blocking abuse. And so if we treat it serially, i.e. what came first and what has come afterwards, we will now look at this matter and say, okay, wait, this didn't seem to be attacking you. You know, I don't necessarily think that that seat was in any way to reduce your person. And so it may appear that the other allegations may seem like an afterthought. And as a distinguished senator, you shouldn't keep quiet. As a woman in that office, you should never sweep it under the rug when a man is trying to sexually assault you. You know, and it's not
So what you're saying now is that she ought to have come out before now
earlier.
to make that.
Yeah, it is very necessary.
So
You're a
this could
champion.
be, supporting the motion of people who feel that this is a calculated move, sort of against the Senate president.
Again, we just have to rely with the facts. Do you understand? Wait, the fact is that if this had come out independently, or if this has come out with something like it's obvious that you have been victimized, it doesn't appear to me that by realigning or rearranging her seat, she was being victimized. So the fact itself, I'm not looking at her, I'm not looking at him, I'm not interested in the politics, I'm just sticking with the facts. The fact of this matter is that it seemed to be some cause and effect. The cause I'm seeing is that you didn't like the seat and you got angry. And when you got angry, other allegations have come out. And these other allegations, we cannot divorce them from this. It's possible both ways. But I'm just going to look at the fact and say, okay, Mel, maybe you're saying this now, not necessarily because you feel offended about the sexual assault, but because you feel offended because of the seat. And that's wrong. It's unfair on its own. You're standing because there are women suffering unimaginable sexual assault. And if you're in that elevated office, we need you to be a voice early enough. File these petitions. Let people know what's happening. And thankfully, it's not a master-servant relationship with the Senate president. It's not. You're equals. You're very much equal. So on that score, I'm not necessarily pulling towards, I will feel offended for her and every other woman that you kept quiet for so long until you didn't like the seat. I think we shouldn't even be talking about the sitting arrangement. The very mere fact that you noticed that you're being oppressed and victimized because of not wanting to dance to sexual tunes, that was when we needed you to scream from the high heavens. And I'm sure many more people would have supported you. The matter would have been different now. It wouldn't have been A is leading to B. Now there seems to be a defense. Again, I'm not looking at A, I'm not looking at B, I'm just sticking to the facts. The fact of the matter is that the optics right now has been colored by an alibi, by, some kind of motive. The motive is that, she's just coming after me because of this seat. It has watered down the fact, whether you like it or not. So if I'm in a courtroom and I see this, I'll be like, it's a different thing if you had just come straight after 2 or 3 motions have been blocked and you go to the ethics, you file a petition on this basis as it stands. Then, because it's exceedingly offensive to start making sexual innuendos and trying to oppress or exert influence over a lady for sexual gratifications, especially denying her and her constituents.
So let's move
right
to let's move to the fact of investigation. Now, when an allegation is made, there has to be an investigation, which a lot of people feel that the Senate has failed on that part.
Yes.
Because the particular first meeting that they had to sit and look into some of the matters, she was not there, and then the following day they seemed to have come to this conclusion that, okay, she should be suspended. Would you call that a fair investigation?
Yeah, sorry, I had to but yeah, I had everything said. Well, you see, the right to be heard is a right, and you can waive your right. Yeah, so if they invite you to be heard, except you make it obvious that I can't be there and you protest to say, hey, give me another time. If you waive your right to be heard, in that case, you can't cry.
But if they are to be heard, is the Senate president not also supposed to be there? Because he was not there.
It's a committee. No, it's a committee. So the committee can decide how they want to hear it. They may want to hear it, everybody come together. They may want to hear it, individually. But of necessity, the principles of natural justice, ordre uterem partem, nemo judex in consuasua.
Because at the end of that meeting, they were like, okay, she's not the one that's supposed to submit that petition.
Yes.
It was supposed to be another lawmaker.
Yes.
So the first day, that was what she did. The following day, she resubmitted the petition again because they said you're not supposed to sign. So the issue of technicality kind of, shrugged off what she wanted to do. And after still doing that, there should be, people are saying that there should be more time to investigate and properly look into the matter before the suspension.
Absolutely, and I don't think that the Senate will do itself justice if they don't allow that investigation. What I'm advocating for is to divorce these issues. Let's be clear. Let's divorce these issues. Let's deal with this issue of the sitting arrangement and all that, and the brouhaha that came out from there, and the misconduct. Let's deal with that on one hand, and now let's have a separate issue for the sexual, because she says she has evidence, and I tend to believe her. And let's not allow both of them on the same page, because one will start dampening the other one. Let us move to the next, part. And the fact that she has raised it now and somehow they don't listen to it, she has full right. She'll write it to that same committee again. They have to look at it. She must be heard one way or another. The committee must look into this matter exhaustively and everything. Not hearing her, denying her the right to express herself, not investigating this matter is offensive. And the Senate president is not in that committee. He's the Senate president, but he's not in that committee to the best of my knowledge. If he's in that committee, everything they're doing is null and void. And then again, if the committee has now, or probably when the general wants to vote, then he has to step down. He cannot be there. He has to step down for the deputy. But now this is a general, Senate. The committee is still at the committee level. So asking the Senate president to step down now is a little bit premature. It looks a little bit, political. He's going to dampen and weaken the proper allegation that is levied against him. If we argue this is what they want, they just want my office, do you get? Now be your Senate president. Allow the committee to look into these facts. If you argued an issue of technicality, the legal assistants probably make a blunder there.
Yeah.
Now they'll come back again, they'll do the right thing, and you must hear it. Because there are two different issues. The first issue is what you dealt with, which is, the ethics, 6 months for quarreling over a sitting arrangement. Maybe that was a little bit extreme.
Now, let me just give you a little background to what played out. That was on the 5th of March.
Yeah.
They dismissed Senator Natasha's sexual harassment and abuse of petition against the Senate president,
Yes.
declaring it dead on arrival based on procedural violations
Exactly.
and legal constraints.
Yes.
How does that make sense to the common man?
Yeah, they basically said she was not the one to sign it. That's why it must have just been an error. She was not the one to sign it. And I do not see anything in the rules to stop the same allegation to come again. So all they have to do is to come back with that allegation, do the right things, and go back to that same committee. And they cannot say, we are not going to hear you again. So basically, in court, dismissal will mean, is an end. But that's
But
not
now
how it
that
applies
she
here.
has been suspended, that's no longer possible again.
Well, first of all, I query with the suspension. I don't think it will fly. There was no suspension. There was already a court order before that suspension. So it's a joke. It's a joke. It won't fly. It's a very big joke that we'll just wait, and after a while, they just enjoy themselves.
She's been stripped of her security details. And, there were even some lawmakers who were trying to make a case for her. I mean, the only one that pulled through
Yes.
was the issue of her aides, people who were working with her. And okay, some of these people don't really stay. I mean, they don't live permanently in Abuja to just not have their salaries being paid and all of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at all of this, you look at her constituency, Kogi Central. What happens in this period of suspension? Are they to suffer? Because, this is some of the issues that, political analysts always talk about, the fact how, the laws don't seem to, help the plight of the common man. So in this kind of situation now, how do people from her constituency, they lack a representative at this time?
You asked a very brilliant question, and this is the same question I've been asking, and I have not found any answer. I've not seen one single legal answer to that question. But your questions are kind of multi-layered, so I want to take them serially. First part you're asking is, being that, let them take even this other part that you just dealt with, because I think that's, the issue right now. I do not think that the Senate, the Senate itself, can suspend a member. I'm not interested in that argument. I think that they can punish, they can discipline, as it were, but I don't think they can suspend, because the entry, the election, and the process of, the whole being a senator and everything concerning the Senate and the House of Reps is governed by the Constitution. And so the Constitution is very, very clear on how to come in and how to be removed. And the Constitution did not in any way, shape, or form put how to be suspended. And trying to indirectly by your rules rewrite the Constitution is offensive. The Constitution itself protects itself. So I'll say it again. It is absolutely unconstitutional to suspend the senator because the senator is there at the behest of the representatives back home. You are basically denying them their right to be heard, their right to vote. What the Senate can do is to strip you of your privileges, several of them, oversight committees, being in one House committee or another. They can say right now you're not going to be in any Senate committee, but you're coming in and going out. That is constitutional. We can't touch it. You're sitting and voting. And I did take it a step further. If you look at Section 61 of the Constitution, you can fairly extrapolate and say clearly that any decision taken in her absence, first of all, is void. That's the first part. Before we go to the second part, which is the fact that there was a court order. But the first part itself is that the suspension, this is a practice that has been happening for so long, but doesn't make it so right. It can be so long and so wrong. You get so long, but so wrong. The Senate does not have, in my opinion, from the Constitution, no part whatsoever, one way or another, suggests that a senator can be suspended by the entire Senate. It's not done. There's nowhere.
Now, there are those that bring this argument that, when you come to the Senate, there are Senate rules and regulations.
Absolutely.
Now, those Senate rules and regulations, is it backed up by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
The thing about the Constitution is that it's a jealous document. It safeguards itself. It safeguards itself. The Constitution protects itself. So nothing can ascend the powers of the Constitution. It becomes null and void. It's called the supremacy clause in the Constitution. It's supreme. And anything inconsistent with the Constitution is null and void to the extent of the inconsistency. And that is why I'm saying that there are other disciplinary measures. I'm not arguing that a senator cannot be disciplined. But what level of discipline? If the discipline is such that affects the electorate back home that waited on a Saturday morning or evening voting in Kogi Central, that discipline is no longer a discipline that you can exert. Because you can't punish, in law, we say this, you don't punish the sin of a counsel on the litigant, not on the client. A client, because the client now, the litigants now, are those people are constituents. They are the ones she's representing. She's just the representative. Saying Natasha go out is saying the entire people of Kogi for 6 months, Kogi Central for 6 months, you have no say, you have no participation, you have no federal representation at the highest level. That is offensive. That is impossible. And that's the part that I expect us to vigorously argue. Again, I'm saying this thing carefully because I'm not a politician. I'm not interested in the whole coloring of the politics. I'm just sticking to the law.
All about.
Well, we have to look at the law and protect the law as much as we can. You cannot deny the people their right to be heard. And saying Natasha to not sit, Senator Excellency or most distinguished Senator Natasha do not sit for 6 months is basically saying the people of you're looking at her. She's not the one.
Now,
the old men there, the young boys there, the baby to be born next tomorrow, she is their representative. You can't close their voice because of what she has done.
You're absolutely right. Now, I just want us to look at the precedents of some of the suspension. You look like someone like Femi back in 1999, suspended after alleging that fellow senators were planning to impeach President Obasanjo. You look at Joseph Waku from Benue, 2000, suggested that a military coup would be preferable to allowing President Obasanjo to continue ruling as a dictator. Then Otto Zeribe from Imo back in 2002, indefinitely suspended over fraud allegation. And Issa Mohammed, senator from Niger Central, suspended for 2 weeks for physically assaulting a fellow senator. And then the recent one of Alain Dume in 2017, after calling for an investigation into allegations involving then Bukola Saraki and also Dino Melaye. And then Omo Agege of Delta Central, suspended after opposing the election reordering bill. And then, of course, Abdul Ningi, of course, the popular budget pardon for which he was suspended for. And now they're saying for her to come back, this suspension is not like, okay, it must be 6 months. They're calling for her to apologize. On the basis of apology, then the suspension can be called up. What do you make of that?
No, we're still saying what I'm saying. I'm saying they don't have a right to suspend her. You can only suspend her from all our committees. You can't stop her from going to her office. That's not, you didn't put her there. You're not the ones that put her there. You're not the one that, she is there. She has the right. Is inalienable. The only way she can lose the right is specified explicitly in the Constitution. She will be recalled. She will go through the process of being recalled. There's no provision for suspension, and you cannot fabricate it. What I think you can do, because it now becomes clear, because there are some things that are rights and some other things are privileges, right? The privilege she will have is to say, I'm in head of this committee, I'm a member of that committee, oversight here, functions here, functions here. Those can be stripped. Clearly, you cannot constitutionally claim that, being elected, that gives you the right to head a particular committee or another. That's the kind of punishment they can have. Don't forget, we're still, somehow drowned, or we're just coming out from the long trench of the military era. So we have this, pattern of military. I sack you, I suspend you. This is a democracy, for crying out loud. Natasha does not speak for the people in Abuja. She represents an entire constituency, senatorial constituency, Kogi Central, I think. And until and unless people have called her, you cannot on your own try to rewrite the constitution to call her back. More so, she had gone to court. She have even asked that the discipline in the first place, which I think that they can do to some extent. And that discipline, she has gone to ask that you can't discipline me pending the determination of this matter. A federal high court sat in Abuja, the appropriate court for that matter, looked into the matter and said, okay, I cannot decide whether or not they can. But what I want you to do is come and show me cause why I shouldn't make this order interlocutory. Instead of you to try and vacate that order, instead of you to try and show cause, you decide to proceed. That affront is what I find extremely offensive also. And I'm not here to defend A or B. Like I said, men lie, women lie, politicians lie, but the facts don't lie. So let's just stick with the one we know will rely on, the fact. The fact of the matter is that as at the time when this order was supposedly given in the House, there was a substantive order in the Federal Court of Abuja, not so far from the Senate. And they could have decided to vacate it. And they could have waited, because it's 72 hours. Just Monday, I think. Monday the 10th. They ought to have waited, gone to court, dealt with this matter, and create a semblance of respect and decorum. What we are getting now is that there's almost the word distinguished senator. You're trying to reduce that. And I'm not saying that it is A or B. Yeah. And again, I'm also not blinded by the glaring fact that this seems to be a multi-party activity. It's not APC per se. It's not PDP. Even the minority leader wasn't necessarily saying they're not speaking up for her. It's telling. It is actually telling. In my opinion, I do not believe that it's possible that all of them are, aside, holding cap for Senate. Some of them don't like him.
You heard it from, the Senate president's call. The ayes have it, and when he called for the nay, there was practically no voice.
My point exactly. So, to be fair, I think that the fact that it was the head of the ethics is from Labour. Do you understand? And it's not. And the PDP leader was only asking for 3 months. He wasn't fighting the cause of saying it's unfair. You get to let's remove the politics from it as it is. I'm not saying Senator Natasha is right or she's wrong. I'm not saying she's lying or she's not lying. I'm just saying stick with the fact. The fact as it is that in my opinion, you cannot suspend a senator. You cannot. There's no constitutional provision for it, and you cannot in any way rewrite the constitution from the backyard. You can't do that. She's there representing the people, and you cannot tell those people, because you are punishing the people. It's because I think sometimes our politicians don't understand that they have a mandate. She's not there on her own. She's a representative. Sitting down, our duty as a representative is not to form opposition. You're not an executive.
Now, when you look at the wife of the president, who spoke out recently saying that the Senate is for matured minds. So when you look at other women, and I must say this, not only women, go through or are faced with sexual harassment, even men. Now, in the light of all this, you look at how highly placed the Senate is. What does this speak to people who go through this every day? And if this can happen to a senator, allegedly, what does it say about stopping this menace?
That's why, first of all, I'm quite offended that, the distinguished senator will wait until she has been supposedly humiliated in public before she brought it up. I think that as a defender of women, which automatically you are, whether you like it or not, that's what you are.
Do you think she should have gone for that interview? to make some of the allegations?
I am not a big fan of the media trial. Personally, I'm not. As much as possible, I try to.
So are you faulting her on that?
I'm not necessarily, it's a right, she can speak, but I'm just saying I'm not. Where I'm faulting her is that the fact that this allegation is coming after the sitting arrangement, I find it exceedingly distasteful. It means that you find sitting arrangement more offensive, something to fight for than sexual harassment. And as a Nigerian who knows a lot of what Nigerian women are suffering, and you are a leader for them, you ought to prioritize that sexual harassment over and above sitting arrangement. In my opinion, put me at the back of the Senate, I don't care. But dare speak to me in this manner.
Well, according to her, she had reached out to the Senate president because her husband, supposedly, is also close to the Senate president. And there were more of like a consensus.
The reality of the matter is that we are talking of sexual harassment, which she ought to know particularly, is that most harassers are people close by. Harassers are it's hard to find. I've been practicing law for a while, and I can assure you, most people who harass sexual harassment are people close by, uncles, sometimes family members here and there. That's why it's worrisome. It's really not going to be a stranger out there trying to harass you. There have to be some kind of relationship. So the fact that you're close to my husband and you want to, and again, I will mention that it's not a master-servant relationship. They are equals. She's a senator, he's a senator. It's just first among equals. Doesn't mean they are not equals. Do you get? She has a right to be Senate president as much as he does. It's just a privilege he's having over there. It's not a right. You get? So it's not as if he can particularly lord it over her. So that is the reason why you hear that kind of innuendos, that kind of suggestion for sexual. I think she should have fought that battle way longer than she did. But better late than never. Better late than never. Come up with all your evidence, particularly knowing that this is what this man did. This is how this man has been frustrating me. She had enough time to gather evidence and bring out them and read them, and let us see if that's it. And if that's not the case, if there's no shred of evidence, if all you're saying is just your word, that's going to be difficult.
Now, we've seen some of the response from her colleagues in the Senate. Saying she's making content. What's your reaction to people who see it that way? Is this content to you? Is that what her colleagues should be saying about this?
Well, then again, it's clear that her colleagues don't see merit in what they're saying. That's what it is. And don't forget, these are colleagues. These are people working with her. These are people around her. That's their personal opinion. And they are not of the same party. Many of them are not of the same party. So it's not like, hey, it's the APC against PDP. It's not against South. It seemed to be a consensus in somehow supporting the Senate president. That's my opinion so far. And I'm not saying that that's making it right or wrong. I just think that we should allow this process go. It is important that that particular allegation must be thoroughly investigated. And we'll look at the root of it. Now, to some extent, I try to avoid sensationalism. There's so many things that can come out and look right. Akpabio himself deserves a right of fair hearing. It does. The distinguished senator does. It's true. Everybody. So you're not going to look at the person and say, this is a bad man automatically. This is not how life and law works mostly.
But when you talk of fair hearing, there were calls for him to resign. Not more of like, this is what the law, calls for you. But given that, hallowed position of
doesn't make any sense. It's actually quite stupid. Next tomorrow,
for him to resign.
Absolutely stupid. In short, it now shows that you actually created, a distraction to take him off. That you have given him justification. Asking him to resign, in my opinion,
are you
is
speaking
stupid.
on the legal basis?
I'm just saying a pragmatic. First of all, you can't presumption of innocence is not a joke. It means until and unless you have been found guilty, you are innocent. We need to swallow this pill and let it digest in us. Do you understand? The moment somebody says you're an armed robber, it means you are not. And if you say this man is an armed robber, let us, upon being accused, let us decide to punish him. Let us morally strip him up of everything. Then we have gone back to this is how it worked since the time of Jesus. This man automatically is killed, hung on the cross, no fair hearing. You get what I mean? She's a witch, stone her to death. We don't go to that era. You don't become guilty because you have been accused. Why would you ask him to resign because he's been accused? Where are your facts? Why should I rely? You must think I'm stupid to rely on your allegations. Bring facts. That's why we're a civilized society.
Now let's talk about the issue of sexual harassment. You're a legal practitioner. From your years of experience, when people bring allegations of sexual harassment and they say that, okay, bring the proof. Over the years, with your own experience, how has it been easy for victims to prove their case?
Well, first of all, it's very difficult. And that's why in cases where there seems to be a chance, because in this particular matter, it seemingly happened for long. First of all, there was an, invitation to treat, and then there was, actions from denial or non-acceptance of the invitation to treat. As at that time, you now realize that this gentleman is now dealing with me. And furthermore, you now went back to meet him. At that time, you going back to meet him means you go and get your evidence. So I believe that if this journey is fair, you will get it. Again, the age matters. For younger people, they find it hard, to gather fact. For people who have understood and have grown, yes. And that's why every case in sexual harassment must be celebrated. But we should never fall into the pit to say that anybody who's been accused should be deemed guilty. It's not easy, but that is not to say it's not possible. Gladly, we live in a very electronic age. There are so many chats, there are so many questions. It's very easy to direct it to a telephone call. Sir, where are you right now? Okay, these things, is it not because I don't want to come? Or you begin to record the conversation. Do you get, just at least put an effort and fail? Do you get what I mean? Don't forget that law is about evidence. It's not about emotions. And thank God for that. Because if it's about emotions, we will do a lot of good. Let's be clear. A lot of good will be done. There's so many good, but the evil, just one evil. So the general standard of law is like this. It is better to allow 10 guilty people walk free than for one innocent man be punished. That standard of law is long-edged and is something that we should not deviate from. Again, it is better to allow 10 guilty people walk free than to punish one innocent person. That's why we must resort to evidence at every time and not emotions and not sensationalism. And I believe that in this case in particular, more than any other case I know, it is almost impossible for there not to be at least an iota or a shred of evidence. There must be something to corroborate the allegations of the distinguished senator, Natasha. I think she must definitely have something, one way or another.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversations with Barrister Osigwe, and we'll look at the Senate's public image. Does this do a lot of damage? And also the ways with which Senator Natasha can, go about, coming out of this suspension that she has been placed on. Do stay with us.
What makes the political system what it is today?
What are the recurring issues?
Order.
The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension.
The instability of the system.
Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt.
I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Politics Now, and if you're just tuning in, we are talking about Senator Natasha versus Akpabio. Matters arising. Let's take you down through our talking points again. At the beginning of the show, we started x-raying Natasha's suspension and the alleged plot to remove Akpabio. Of course, we're done with that. But before we move into our next talking point, Barrister Osigwe, thank you for being with us. So how does she navigate legally moving forward now that she has been suspended? What do you think is a pathway for her to get back to the Senate?
Well, I think she goes back to the same court, basically ask whether to raise it before the same court, whether the court can fairly, whether any action against a clear standing order of the court is not in fact null and void. And I'm pretty sure every court will say it's null and void.
Now, is this going to be different from the 100 billion naira suit that is already before the court?
Those are two different matters.
Oh.
Those are two different matters. The youngest, that's defamation. And so that's to say, I think it's because of the unsavory words that was used against her by the Senate President. And I think that's uncalled for.
That should have been done before now, from your own perspective?
No, I think she has done that at the appropriate time. The man used some I think called a nightclub. Yeah, we call it distinguished senator. And it's very funny because at the end of the day, yeah, on the other hand, claiming that you're protecting the name and the image of the Senate, and you begin to ridicule your Senate, your co-senator. I think that's unfortunate. And a little bit of decorum. Let's just say this has not been the finest time in our Senate so far. We've had very charismatic Senate president in the past. I remember, Okadibo, one of the greats, as he was, of course, Bukola Saraki. There's so many there with their steeds, so to speak. And apart from for all it was, it doesn't fall into I don't think for many Nigerians will fall into the best, will fall into the league of the best Senate presidents we've had at all. Absolutely not. We've been blessed with a lot, embassy where we've had great people, sit on that position with dignity and style and actual finesse. And I think that we're in this era right now, and we'll go through it. We'll move through it.
But when you talk about the position of the Senate president as a whole, what about opposition lawmakers? I mean, there's just been a lot that has been expected of them. I get the reason why they would want to, side with the boss, of course, the Senate president. I mean, when you look at, a while ago, I read out some of the lawmakers that's been suspended in the history of the National Assembly. Now, some, of course, I mean, sounds grievous, and for some, you're just wondering why they would do that. Now, for fear to not have maybe any to be in a position whereby they could freeze their benefits and all of that, so they would not want to do that. But when you look at opposition politics, would you say you expected more, at least for some people, to logically speak on behalf of Natasha?
I'm going to stand there. I do not agree that the Senate president has, can lord it over any senator. I don't agree with that. Again, they are equals, to be honest. And
do you have to be. Those in the Senate know that they are equals?
I'm very sure they know that they are equals. There's a respect.
Would you say they act like
absolutely,
they are
absolutely. I do not see. I mean, there's a respect we give to the Senate president. He's a Senate president, but then again, he's a senator. It's clear. These are senators. They are not, most times they are not children in politics. Most times, these are people who have had distinguished lives. Do you know what I'm saying? It's most elite class in Nigeria. To be honest, I think even over the class of governors, almost anybody can be a governor. Just have enough brutal rascality and a lot of political thuggery. You can't find your way there. But it's different from senators because there still have to be some difficult job you have to do one way or another. Some cerebral job involved in it. And I know they have legal aids, but I feel like the whole process and the fact that they are always covered from the camera and the spotlight makes them, in their own way, a little bit more technical in doing their duties. Of course, there are many people who go there, sleep, we don't see them, we don't know about them. I'm not trying to say that all of them have been perfect, but there's something about the institution that is worthy of being protected. And even if you go back to the Romanian times, I mean, Roman times when we started, Caesar, it gives a kind of elite. These are supposed to be the elite bodies in Nigeria sitting together, but somehow, no matter how bad it has degenerated over the years, that's still the Senate. It deserves to be protected, and we know that years to come is still something. If we get it right in the Senate, we'll get it right. We'll really have the checks and balances. We ran into the Buhari's era, whereby a Senate president, and I think we were still flowing from that era, just thought it was a rubber stamp of the presidency. The last, in my opinion, thorough Senate president we had was Bukola Saraki. And I'm just being honest, I'm just being honest. I think that was the last made Senate president I would say, oh, this is a man that had it covered. This is a man that, understood a bit of his role. Since then, we've been having, in my opinion, rubber stamps. People who think that they are supposed to dance to the behest of the authority and of the executive and all that. So back to the office is still a distinguished office that's worthy of protection, and the way the members deal with each other here. So I don't think the opposition here, Senator Kenjibi, I don't think she's somebody that will be afraid for Naira and Kobo. I don't think Senator Imasue of Edo South is somebody. He's an Edo man. Edo people are difficult to intimidate. Find out. Very, very difficult to intimidate an Edo man, particularly for money. So I don't see that you want to tell him because of his money, he will keep quiet and sell it. Do you get what I mean? If he sees an injustice, I believe he will speak out.
I mean, you mentioned Senator Kingigbe. I just wanted to recall some of the things that she made in an interview, when Senator Natasha talked about being maligned. I mean, she said out of all the female senators, she enjoyed the most, senatorial benefits from under the leadership of Senator Akpabio. So, I mean, this is more of like a shock for her. I know a lot of people were disappointed by what she said. So when you look at that, I mean, would you say that those who accuse her of not speaking up for Natasha could be missing a point here?
No, but you want her to lie. I don't mind. You see, we have almost groomed the culture of, underdog, support the underdog. That's not how it should work. Stick with the fact. She has told you that her husband and his man are friends. They have a history together. Definitely they are friends. She was at his birthday. Strangers, you were not at his birthday. You using your popcorn or your typing and accusing one party. These are friends. They probably have fallen out. They probably have issues, but they are friends. Don't forget about the fact. And obviously, if they are friends that way, and Senator Kenjibe thinks that she's benefited, I think if there's any senator trying to be, oppressed one way, he's probably our senator. She's our senator, Kenjibe. She's the one that you say, one way or another, but she's held herself elegantly over the while, and I don't think that it's fair to say.
Well, those people are saying that, when she was facing this so-called drama with the FCT minister, I mean, people stood and rallied up for her, and she's not doing the same.
Yeah, but you're not going to expect her to lie. You want her to lie against her conscience. I want people to be fair. If she thinks that this is the position I have, I've not seen anything in that way to show or suggest that this indeed happened. Would you want her to lie to your conscience to please you, to please your narrative? At least we should be able to hate somebody, disagree with somebody, dislike somebody, but still stick with the facts. The fact of the matter is that right now the allegations seem very watery until and unless we have exhumed everything and all the hidden evidence comes out there. Otherwise, it's a mere allegation that is just, speculative and watery, as it is now. And the senator herself, I'm talking of KNGB, she can look at that and align herself with that position. I've not seen anything here. I don't see how this man in any way could have in any way exerted any force over this person. It's not, Senator Natasha is a brave woman. She fought one of the most dogged and governors in Nigeria to stand still. Yabelo is a dogged governor, but she fought him to stand still and won, I dare say. So I don't see you as a woman that can be easily walked over by a man because of, do you get? I think that my offense is that as the moment that came out, she should have instantly taken that up and not try to protect him because he's our husband friend. She should have known, no, just this kind of people don't deserve this kind of offices. How dare you? It's okay if they have adults, extra more, that's their own business. We're not going to cover ourselves as Nigerians in that regard. But to say that you will frustrate an entire constituent because of your sexual, tunes and innuendos, that's disgusting. And I don't think Senator Natasha ought to have, stood for that. That's my position on it. So if there's any grievance, it's the fact that you were willing to let that slide. You were willing to let that weighty matter slide until, in my opinion, something exceedingly trivial, like a sitting arrangement, triggered you. You would have allowed the weightier matter gone by. And all of a sudden, we should now come and start jumping for that. No, that was an afterthought action, in our opinion. But nonetheless, better late than never. Let us see what is there. And let us investigate it before we can have formed opinion.
Now, amidst the facts and of what needs to be investigated and what Senator Natasha has laid on ground, when you look at the reactions, because I have a couple of female friends, and they've raised the concern of misogyny and patriarchy. In terms of the responses that you've seen so far, what can you say? And do you think that as a nation, there still needs to be more to be done in terms of curbing misogyny and patriarchy?
Absolutely. And I think the first thing is to close our eyes to biases. Just let people be. There are good people everywhere. There are good guys, good girls, bad guys, bad girls. You get? So you don't look at a person and say, hey, because you're a woman, we need to cure that out. And that's why I think Senator Natasha is an inspiring figure. For her, she's one of those, women who's articulate, and she's daring. Again, don't also forget that women are free to be women. Do you get? Not all of them have the same likes. Not every woman wants to be in the National Assembly. Do you understand? It's just some fact of life. We will get to a point whereby we agree that, okay, but for those who are in public order, they need to be protected. They are a rare breed. Not every woman wants that.
I mean,
That's the
4
fact.
out of how many?
Yes, but then again, if you throw it open and say, in a class of 500 young boys, how many? It's not necessarily, societal conditioning. It's the fact that women tend to like some things, men tend to like some things somehow. Men tend to gravitate towards power and influence more than women. It's a natural fact, and I don't think it has to be culture in that sense. Some of these things are just probably DNA one way, but doesn't shift. The truth of the matter is that for the few women, this is where I'll come in. For the few women, my mom was an accident. She is not was. She's a very strong, powerful woman. And one of the blessings you can have is to be raised by a powerful woman. Because many women are traditional, powerful,
Laid back.
laid back.
Even as journalists, when we go out on the streets to like seek people for their opinions, I mean, only men want to talk on national issues. Women will just naturally want to shy away.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just interesting. But you'll be finding them in another interest and they'll do exceedingly well. And so it's now unfair to now, compare oranges and apples. Sometimes women enjoy politics and do it to the extreme. They're there. There are some men that want to watch some other, they have interests. Just let people be people. So it's not necessary to say, hey, we need to balance up the gender issue in that regard. I like meritocracy as best as possible. A woman deserving gets there, great. But I think that a few women there, they need to understand that they don't represent their constituency alone. That's why I'm speaking again. You represent the entire women of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, those in your state and those outside your state. You are a role model. Any woman in politics, these are rare breeds. They are the ones that will tell our young daughters, you can be like that woman. Your beauty doesn't have to end in the wrong way, thinking that you can be a model. That's not the only conditioning. You can be a senator. You can be a Senate president. And Senator Kenjibi also. These people, women who dare to vie for these offices, I tend to applaud them. I have exceeding respect for them. Because I know that not all women want to be in that line in the first place. It's not a very easy route, even for men. Even for men, there are men at least don't put, I don't want to go near there and, you know what I mean. So we need to respect women in politics. And they need to understand that they owe a duty to inspire the next breed of Nigerian women out there. So your question seems like I've not really touched it. Is our society very anti-women? I don't know that necessarily. I think that the culture is something that more education, we get better. We had laws that were very draconian in the past. You couldn't own properties in the East and all that. But there are good judgment coming out in Zegu. You can't say that the woman cannot own, property, even though there are still cultural fights, but the law is clear. The Constitution is also clear. A part of the Constitution is that you cannot discriminate anybody by race and or gender, all that. And again, there's still some issues. I'm not saying our Constitution is perfect when it comes to that. In my opinion, one issue that women advocate have to fight out there is, why would I marry a wife who is Ghanaian or who is Lebanese or who is Jewish and she becomes a Nigerian? But a woman marries a man who is it doesn't become a Nigerian. That's one issue we must solve.
Yeah.
And these are the legal issues that we look at and say, maybe our society is not yet there, but we're way better than we were in 1960.
Of course. Now, it just so happens that the both of them are lawyers. You look at the Senate President, an experienced lawyer, and also Senator Natasha, also a barrister. So, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But hopefully, she's able to represent her constituency. But beyond legal proceedings, do you see this, just like what played out during the Rivers political crisis? There were calls for a political solution. Do you think there could be a behind-the-scenes solutions to this?
Yes, absolutely. I think she has said that they're friends.
Notwithstanding the allegations so far.
Well, she said that they're friends, and that could happen. But I think that I would like, my prayer is that this matter should really have the courts question this matter, check the legality of suspension of a senator as the punitive measure. I agree with the discipline, but when it comes to suspension of the senator itself, I think that that's punishing the constituent for the sin of the senator. And I don't think the Senate president or any other senator or any other person for that matter, not even the court, in my opinion, can do that. Except with recourse to the Constitution, of course.
Well, our time is up. I want to thank you so much once again for sharing your legal insights on the matter for the day. Our time is almost up, and there's just so much. We'll just have to wait for the courts to do the needful and then suspend all opinions and just allow the evidence to speak. amid some of these allegations that has been raised by Senator Natasha, knowing fully well that just a few female in the Senate. Well, that's the much we can take on the show today. Once again, my name is Morno Balagobo. Many thanks for watching.